Brainwash the mother so that way she'll teach their young
They begin by making white slave owners, black women slaves, so that they can create a whole set of he's a genius though.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm I got it.
Let's make a slave. First bullet point was on black family, which consisted of a black man, pregnant woman, or just a woman, and a baby boy or a baby girl. For our second bullet point, we put breaking like a horse. Third bullet point.
Okay, why breaking like a horse? Why was that such a key point?
Breaking like a horse was such a key point because, like, when you first get a horse, they're wild and they're hard to tame. But once you put them through a lot of suffrage and stuff, they start to break down because they won't be resilient to you. So that way they don't have to go through the suffering as much. For create a dependency status, they want the blacks to depend on whites more and make them feel like without whites they can't really do nothing, so they have to depend on them in order to survive in life. For the fourth bullet point, we put break natural string of independence, so which relates back to the first one, make them seem like they can't be by themselves. And cause before they were captured, they lived in Africa and they was basically doing everything by themselves, like hunting and gathering, building huts, and stuff. And since they can't do that no more, they're gonna need someone in order to get materials in order to survive. For the fifth one, it was read the state of mind of a slave. So knowing the state of mind of a slave and what they're thinking as they're in slavery, you could use that and take advantage of them in order to make them better slaves and give them a state of mind to where the only thing they know how to do is be nothing but a slave. And for the last one is man breaking and slave making, slave making. So yeah, you just break the man and turn him into a slave.
Why can't a man be a slave?
Well, a man can't be a slave because usually, if you think about men, most of the time they're resilient, and they won't really listen to what anyone has to tell them to do because they mostly doing things on their own, based on their own preferences. So if you break that confidence and break that pride that they got, then you can easily turn them into a slave because they won't have as much resistance or have that state of mind to where they have to do things on their own and not take disrespect from people.
We have the legal marriage.
Okay.
And what we found interesting was some of the words they decided to use. For example, instead of using the word mate, they used the word breed, like animals. So what they did was they took two African American males and two African American females and breeded them together. And when a child was born, they would remove the father from the household, so that way it forced the mother to be a single mother, much like today what we have in our society, and raise the children by themselves. And the mother who produced a female child, she would teach her female child to be more like her, strong, in the head, and more like her. And the mother who had the male child would be more fearful because she don't want her male child to end up like any other male slave who disrespected the slave master and become whipped. So she'll teach her to obey the slave masters, and that was basically the whole Negro marriage.
Excellent. Good job.
Yeah. Our group had cardinal principles for making a Negro, and for our first point, it generally tied back to what the first two groups were talking about, like comparing a Negro and taking away their feeling of a man and comparing them to an animal and treating them as such. And for the first point, it says African slaves are being compared to wild animals, specifically the horse, and you want to domesticate them as an animal so they'll be more productive.
The second one, keep the body, take the mind. You want them to work to the best of their ability, but you still don't want them to think they're equal with you. That's basically what it is. You don't want them to feel as if they have some type of power that they don't.
For the next point, we got brainwashed mother, because they wanted to think about the future generations. It wasn't just about the breed of slaves they had now. They were thinking about long term. And if you go back to the first reading we were doing as a class, Willie Lynch talked about getting the most productivity you can get out of slaves and working them, and making them like work under you for the next 300 years. And that this breaking down the mother tied to the whole idea where you can brainwash the mother, make her feel like she's less than, and then the mother will teach their children. It'll just be a continuous cycle. So it's at a certain point you won't even have to tell them. It just becomes a general knowledge.
Put the fear of God in them. Make them believe that God didn't want them. Make them believe that God didn't like them at all. And make them fear God. So they won't have nobody to pray to, nobody to think about or listen to their cries but them.
And for our final point, we wrote, grab the strongest or most mentally tough slave that they have and then beat them in front of everyone to make a point. This generally ties back to what we were talking about with the mother and turning them to an animal. You want to break them mentally, not only physically. And for the strongest slaves, will be beaten like physically, but that'll teach a lesson to all the others that they won't even try to do anything that will contest what the leaders and their masters try to do because they already got the message of what's going to happen. So they're broken down, feel like they're less than, and they can't uprise because they know what's going to happen. They're being taught and instilled that they're powerless.
So it was kind of like what Isaiah's group had. It was like, but it's just saying like they break the African woman down, make her like independent, so she would have to depend on any type of male figure in her life. But as when she do this, when she gives birth, she makes her son dependent on her, and makes him weak mentally, and it makes the female independent like her. So now the male depends on the female, and it switches the role. So now the male will not like try to fight or anything because he's dependent on the female, and if the female says no, he's going to listen. And what I found like just interesting in general is that this makes sense and it's like really, really smart. Even though it's sick, but it's like smart the way he just thought about this whole thing.
And basically, like what this is trying to say is that the offspring of these slaves are like basically broken from birth, so they would never, like they were taught to, listen to the slave master, don't talk back and things of that nature. So as they broke the mother is teaching them like you can't do this, or you can't act as strong as a strong slave, because then you'll just be broken like the others.
Excellent.
We said that the white slave owners were basically raping the African American slave women to give birth to quote unquote monsters, so that they can force them to work for longer. The offspring will soon not be accepted by neither black or white people because they will be mixed between black and white, so they won't be accepted by the slaves or the white owners.
Okay.